We are live. Thank you for joining in. Let's see how many people are joining us soon. We are live now, and we want to be able to do something with the floor plans. And type in the comments where you are watching in from. To be glad to know. Yes, type in the comments where you're watching in from. And as the rest are joining us, I'd like to apologize for those who have been waiting. And today we delayed just a little bit, but I hope I didn't lose you, because it's about time for us to start. I'm waiting for you to type in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It'd be interesting to know. I'm glad that you are here, and today we are doing something interesting, something that we work on as designers and architects, which is floor plans. And we are most of the time designing in floor plans, which is not a conventional way of thinking. Very few people will understand floor plans, which makes it a little bit tricky for people to really understand what's going on. All right, watching from Hoima. Yes, Francis, thanks for joining in. So today, let's get started with this floor plan here. So we are going to transform this floor plan using the 3D document. So in order to do that, we need to create a 3D document. I hope most of us understand how to come to this point. If you do not know how to create a floor plan in Archicad, I would recommend some of my beginner classes, such that you are able to come to this level where you can create your own floor plan. Because today we are just going to see how to transform this floor plan into something that looks a little bit better, in my opinion. We want to transform them to look something like this, if you can be able to see that. So how do we get from here all the way to there? There are just a few simple steps, but we need to be aware of them. And let's get started. First things first, I'd like to mark this thing and create a 3D document, because in order to achieve the shadows that we are seeing here, we need to create a 3D document. And as well, we need to, let's go back here, and then in order to create that 3D document, I'm going to mark a bigger area, and that's because the site is a little bit larger. If I can go to the 3Ds under here, on aerial perspective, we should be able to see how this house actually looks like. So it's something like this. So I hope this is a bit clear. Let me change the layer combination to just show us the main house, because that's what we are working with. So I have hidden the house which was here. So this is the building that we are working with, and we are working with its floor plan. So in order to make some adjustments to that floor plan, I need to mark an area where it is contained. So I'm going to go to the main house model, such that you can see where the site is, because those layers have been hidden. And if you're new to layers, be sure to check out my layers video. It will help you move. And I'm going to right click and say create a new 3D document. So this 3D document is going to be ground floor or floor plan, because this is just a simple house and we'll be talking about just floor plans. So once I create that, it should be created here. Thanks Shona Entertainment for joining in. Hello to you as well. And let's create something here. Now this is the first thing that you get. So now we have this going on here. The very first thing that you create when you have a floor plan, this is the very first thing that you have, and that is these things which are colored and are a little bit weird. Let's see. Yes, Isaac, thanks for joining in. I'm glad that you're here. All right. Alan Komjisha, thanks for joining. Kamjisha, not Komjisha, Kamjisha from Chambogo University. I'm glad to have you here. And you are as well in the built environment. Okay, that's interesting to know. And specifically is architecture. Yes, so today we are discussing on how better to present your floor plans when you have created your floor plan in Archicad. Let me know down in the comments how many of you have been using Archicad before. Have you been using Archicad? Have you tried to use the 3D document? Because that's what we are looking at today, because we want to see how to transform a basic floor plan to something that, you know, visually adds some depth and adds some interest. Okay, so right now we have something going on. We have created this floor plan thing, and we want to see how to actually convert this. So first thing is, let's bring the context, because the moment I did this, I am expecting to see the ground or the site itself, and it's not being shown because it's on this lower layer, which is the footings level, so to say. Footings level, so to say. So we have this going on. So this is the site, and then also we have an access to this building somewhere here, and we want to be able to see that information in this part here. So in order to do that, I can see, yes, you're saying that I use Archicad but 24 version. Okay, 25 feels a little bit sophisticated. I would beg to differ. It's essentially the same thing. It's just that it's just a few more features that were added. So don't feel intimidated with Archicad 25, please. And you're saying, do we have videos? Okay. Oh, my videos are quite infamous in in Chambogo University. Is that what you're trying to say? That's good if they are. That's good, because it means they are helping. All right, so let's show the site. So in order to show the site, we want to right click onto the tab, on the actual tab that you have created, and go to the settings. And the settings of the 3D document, we have here something going on, which is the source story. So when you have a source story here, you can also show stories which are below. Now when I click that, and automatically we have number 1 here. So it depends on what level you're cutting at. In my case, I'm cutting on the ground floor, and there's only one story which is below this ground floor. So when I say okay, this story which is below should be able to show. And this process is quite intensive in the sense that you use a lot of memory. So if you do not have enough graphics card, if you don't have like a graphics card or something, this process might be a little bit too slow for you, but I hope you should be able to follow along fine. Yes, watching from India, Hane, thank you for joining us. And then we have Bennett as well. Hi. Katabarwa. Okay, now we have this site like I told you, and how we did show it is by right clicking, going to 3D document and making sure that we show stories below under here on show down to and one story. So that's how we actually got that site. And now we want to be able to get rid of some of the things like the colors, because this floor plan is intended to be a simple floor plan. So how do we get rid of all these colors? So you can right click and go to 3D documents, and then make sure that under model appearance you change this from this to a uniform pen, which uniform pen is a blank pen. Under here we have window background, so that's the pen that we are going with, and we say okay, and it should take a while for it to generate, and there you have it. So we have gotten rid of all the colors. So now I think you can see this. And once you have this, we want to be able to also reveal some things which are missing. For example, you can see this car. This car is missing the top part, because when we cut through a 3D document, some of the elements are cut, and we cannot see the windows for the toilets because they are a little bit higher than normal, and as well the garage ventilation system somewhere here is still missing, and we want to be able to show those things as well. So in order to do that, I'm going to right click and say go 3D document, and we have to go under here where you see floor plan and change that to a higher level, because currently we are cutting at a 1 meter height. So we want to be able to include those windows in there. And in order to verify, you could as well select those windows on the floor plan itself. Let's go here on the floor plan and find out how high those windows are. If I select like this one, which should be the same height as this one, I can see it is at 1.8 from the ground. So putting 1.8 or more should be able to get us to a good place. So I'm going to right click here, and then I will say 3D document settings, and we should be able to have this changed to 1.8 or higher, could be 1.9 or something like that. And when we do that, we should be able to see on top of the car as well as those windows when it has finished regenerating. Because this is a 3D document, it may take a little while. So you can see, we can see a suggestion of what is happening. The door is here, but if you wanted to see them a little bit more defined, maybe something which is above 1.8 should be better. Maybe 1.9 or 1.850. We should be able to cut through the window itself. Yeah, just let me ask for a moment, just something. All right, so now we have something here, and we are going to continue here. Sorry about that. We are going to have this. So right now you can see those windows which are right here, and they are now showing through. So now we want to be able to start adding some interesting stuff, and that's the depth. And you can add the depth with just the shadows. So if I go to 3D document settings, I should be able to check shadows here, and when I do that, and by default we have 50% of a pen, which is this one here. And I think that's not really bad, but sometimes I prefer subtle, much more subtle shadows, so we make this 25%. And don't forget, it's under model appearance, and you can turn on the shadows and affect how thick or how deep the shadows are, because 25% is much more light, and in my opinion, something which looks way better. So we have, it starts to kind of generate, and right now you can already see a lot of depth in the drawing, and this is quite good in my opinion. We have some depth going on here, but then as well we need to change everything into black, or a similar color for my case, because I do not like to have so many, colors going on. We have red, we have pink stuff for the masonry work, and in order to sort of harmonize what's actually going on is going back here in the 3D document settings and make sure I override the pen. So we have two ways to do this. First of all, you can override the pen here by saying you want a uniform pen to be on top of everything, or we can put a graphic override on top. And I think I would recommend to use a graphic override, because with a graphic override you have more control. Here, when you use a uniform uncut pen, it's going to make everything that pen, and you do not have control, because to add depth you might want to have the furniture in a different color, and then these other slabs in a different color, because they are at different heights. So I would not recommend uncut pen here. But before we leave here, we should turn on a cover fill foreground, because this is going to show us the tiling which is on the floor. Is this? Yes, the WC floors, and some of the patterns which exist elsewhere, like this green grass. So when we say okay, we should be able to see some of this stuff. Yeah, now we have this green thing here. Is it the green grass concept? And also we have this you can see some patterns start revealing on the walkways, and as well we can see some patterns in this WC. So now we want to be able to have control on the pen weights, because it can be a nightmare to deal with them. But before we do that, we want to also tell Archicad to close up these areas, because this furniture it looks to continue indefinitely. So in order to close up this furniture with it selected, when you go to its settings, this cabinet or working cabinet, you can see that here in the settings under kitchen cabinet settings, we should be able to go and look for where that is, which is under representation. So when you go on the drop down list and go to representation, you can see these things which are currently checked. One is hide left counter edge and hide right counter edge. So I don't know whether this is the left or right, but whichever, let's try to unhide one of them, maybe the left first. Once it's not the one, we can always switch back. And you can see that that is not the one I intended. So now if we go back, we should be able to check back this one and uncheck the right counter edge, such that now we have that line that indicates that this floor cabinet. No, this cabinet stops right here, but it flows into this other one. It is seamless here, and that will be the same case for this other part. So we want part of this thing to be treated like it stops somewhere. So under here, under representation, like I told you in kitchen cabinet settings, you can come here and check the edge in order to see which one. I hope I did get the correct one. Yes, I did. So this is the left part and it has been closed off. All right, so now that we have that, we want to also be able to override the line weights for each of these things. Now, I have made a video before about how to deal with graphic overrides. You can always check it out. When it's a video called how to improve your floor plans. So under documents, when you go to document and then you say graphic overrides, you should be able to add a graphic override on top of that. And with that video, we created this graphic override, which was the element based thing. And actually it was the layer based. It was layer based. But if I check that, it should be able to do something here. And that's the beauty with Archicad, is that once you have created preset, you can always continue to reuse it. You can see what it does. It overrides on top of everything and creates some differences in the pens that are being used. So if I right click and say show me the true line weight, you should be able to see the difference between this pen and the pen on the doors and also the pen on the furniture. You can already see those line weight differences. So, and that has to be coupled with choosing the right layer pen, which is the building plans. So I need to change that to building plans, and you can see that it still updates as well. Now, I hope we are still together. I hope you understand what pens are, which are in the options element attributes under here, pen, color and model views. These are the pens that we are using. The default one is the architectural 100, but in the case that we did under the previous graphic overrides video, we discovered how to use these building plans 50 because they contain the pens which have some much thicker representation. If I select this pen, which should be the pen which is around these walls, it's 0.5 line weight, which is good for us. Let me know down in the comments whether you are following just fine. And I understand some of you may not have these graphic override settings, but you can start directly from just putting any graphic override, because I understand that you could be having like the simplified plan. So try to override that in there and see what happens. And already you can see that this is what it does. It gets rid of all the feel, the texturing which we have done, and it overrides, you know, the walls to make them like this. And sometimes this is what you want, sometimes this is not what you want. But in our case, we already created something which we can work with. And don't forget to check out that video. So now I'm going to go back to the one which we currently have, which is element based. And that's because this one does not override this texturing, and it just overrides the pens for these walls. So now we want to also adjust that override, because it's not doing a good job for the cover fields. If I see like this texturing here, it's a bit competing with, you know, when we zoom out, you can see that this is a bit too pronounced. So we want to be able to actually go in the override settings and we change some of that stuff. And as well, you can see the texturing, which is here. You can change it. So either we can use the graphic override to do that, or we can change it directly here. So if you wanted to change it directly here, if we select this material here, I made this out of a morph. If I'm to show you what that looks like in 3D, because this is just a ramp that goes into this garage, if I go to 3D, you should be able to see what that ramp looks like, which is something like this. So we want to be able to create a texture which doesn't outcompete the drawing. And in order to do that, I'm going to go back to here on this floor plan. I need to know which surface is used here. So if I go to the settings, you can see that the surface I put on is a concrete. Now this concrete, I put a texture on top. So how did I put that texture in there? If you go options, element attributes, and then surfaces, options, element attributes, and surfaces, and we look up that concrete texture, which is this one here, and it's called concrete 04. I added this texture, which is the triangular grid. When you look at the cover fill foreground, so this is where you change material, the texture to be shown in a 3D document. And what that means is that if I change this to a background and I say okay, this texture should be able to disappear. And if I need it back, you can see that now it disappears. If I need it back, I have to go back to options, element attributes, and surfaces. And I make sure that with it selected, which is this one here, concrete 04, I should be able to add a texture, which was triangular. Let me go triangular grid. Yes, this one here. And here, like I said, you can override to make it a light one. Maybe make it like, I don't know, this pen, which is gray. Yes, and say okay, such that now it's going to come back, but it will be much more subdued, like it's not overshadowing the drawing. Yeah, so now you have more control. So now you can affect this one differently. And as well, if we select this slab here, if we go to its settings, we need to find out what material is on top of it. If you can see the override, the surface override that is there is this one here, which is tiles white matte 15. So if I go and look up that, which under here, options, element attributes, and surfaces, and I look for that tile white something, which one there, and Archicad does a good job because I have it selected. It is the one which is selected currently, and now you can be able to affect it. You can see that now what is included on it is this grid 30 by 30, and we want to maintain it, but we want it to have, you know, a lighter pen. So you can come here and change that pen to make it a little bit subdued, and let's say okay, and that should be able to do it for us. Yes, thanks Kane for joining us. Yahweh Kane from Entebbe, Uganda. Thank you for joining us. And as well, I can see Tommy. Thanks for joining us from Namibia. Well, so now I hope you can see how much control you can have over the elements without if you do not want to go through the trouble of graphic overrides, you can actually do that. And what that means is that you can as well add surfaces in some spaces. For example, I need something in the floor plan. If you look at this reference, we have some timber siding thing going on. How do you achieve that? Well, you can put in a slab which has that material. And if we go to the floor plan, currently I have it here, I have it already here, and that's because it's being put in by the zone tool. So the zone tool has an area where you can actually put in a texture, but currently Archicad does not use zones in the 3D documents, and it's being worked on because they have enabled using this within Archicad 25. Now you can use zones in sections and elevations, but not yet in 3D documents. So we have to do this manually. Now we need to add like a small slab. How I created these textures in the WC is I used a slab, which slab has just a fill on top. If I go to the settings, you can see that that's the surface, but as well, if I go down here in the floor plan settings, you can see I have a cover fill, which is this grid 30 by 30. So I created that. So why not create the one which comes on the ground floor here? So I'm going to pick that slab. So you can pick anything by alt clicking. So you can say alt and then click to pick that. So now I have the slab which is there, and then I can draw it in here, and you can see that it has overridden what the zone tool has been doing for us. Okay, I'd like to inquire if you can offer an internship post to train. Okay, I'm afraid that may not be possible because I myself am not a registered architect, and you need to be in training with a registered architect. I am a graduate architect, so still under training under someone, so maybe in the near future. So sorry about that. Now we have this as the override, which is on top of this thing here, and you can as well change this to whatever material that you want here in the floor plan. If you go in the cover fill, now because we want to change everything, I'd like to use something else. Maybe for this case we want to use another material, because we cannot have the same tiles in the WC as the same as the sitting room. Or maybe that's what you want, you can go ahead and do that, but we wanted to have something like wood, yeah, but wood which has a texture going on here. So maybe we can choose like this sliding light. Let's say, what if we chose that? Of course here it doesn't change because in the floor plan we have told Archicad to use this, so we can tell Archicad to use something else, which is like wooden plank, something like that, and there you have it. It does it for us. But does the same thing happen for the 3D document? Let's see what happens. Let's see. Yeah, there it does for us. It does for us, and there we have it. But of course the pen as well, it can be changed. So if we get this and go to the settings, you can see this is the material which is being done, which is the siding light. And with it selected, if we go to options, element attributes and surfaces, we should be able to control that pen, which is somewhere here. If you have here cover fill, foreground, you should be able to control this pen and make it a little lighter, such that it doesn't compete with the rest of the build, the pens, such that it's not so much pronounced. And you can already see what happens to it, and that's pretty cool. But I liked something else instead, so I'll go back, and I liked the look of this pen here. I'm going to change to something like the 119th pen. I think that's what I did choose. All right, whichever you determine to choose, but that's the way you actually do it. Now, once you have that, now you can also as well, something that I'd like to show you, change what the materials are here in this area, which is the walking, I don't know what to call it. Is it that a walkway or what, when you have slabs stacked one after another with some space in between? Okay, whichever you decide to call it. If I go to settings, you can see that this is concrete or two. So, and there with it selected, let's have it selected, the concrete or two, and we should be able to affect it. So something cool you can do is, if we go options, element attributes, and surfaces, and look for that concrete auto, probably it will be there because we have it selected. Yes, it's already here, which is good for us. And you can change, instead of having the grid, which doesn't make sense in this case, you can change to something else. For example, I like to use a render. So if you hit R, you should be able to see render somewhere here. And you can change this, instead of having that, you have like a render. And as well, you can control the pen like we did for the others. And then we have like, I don't know which pen you would like to use. And once we say okay, Archicad should start to calculate and create something like this, which I think is pretty cool, which, you know, gives an illusion of concrete. I think it's even more clearer in this case. Yeah, it gives an illusion of some concrete going on here. So that's it. You can see that in a few steps, we have something interesting already. We have a plan which has some depth, which is by turning on the shadows. We have a plan which has some, which shows, you know, the openings, and, you know, it shows more of the circulation. And as well, we have control over the pens, which show depth in the drawing. And as well, something that is really cool with the 3D documents is that if we have all of them selected, I'm going to get a door. Let's get doors here. I'll show you something really interesting. If we get all of them selected and we go to settings, we should be able to open those doors and you see something cool. Right now we have the garage selected, and in this case it's not the garage we are interested in. We are interested in these doors, the ones which just flip open. So I will click to make sure you hold down shift such that you don't lose the selection of these others, and hold down shift to select it again, such that right now it's that one that is being selected. So I have everything selected, but the parameters that I want to change are for these ones as well. And if we go to the settings, we should be able to change the opening. If we go hinge door settings and then you click here, you should be able to see something which is opening type and angle. And under here, opening type and angle, you can actually make it open 90 degrees. And that's what that will do, is open the 3D to 90 degrees. So when we say okay, this should start to calculate, and you will see both the shadows and around these openings also, you know, calculated in a way, which I think is really cool. So now we have something like that, you know, is more communicative of the circulation, because you can see how you open this door to enter here, how you open this door to enter here. And in order to keep it more like a plan, we might need to go in and draw this kind of stuff, where we draw in the opening itself. And in order to do it effectively, you might want to turn off the true line weight. So you right click somewhere else and click on true line weight in order to turn it off temporarily. and now you should be able to work much more efficiently by using this point here in order to create this this thing here, which is the line that indicates that how the door opens, which I believe you can do change. Let me change it to hidden in order to have it, you know, dashed to just indicate a path. And as well, because we had an arrow on top of here, if we go to settings, you should be able to choose the very first option, which doesn't have an arrow. So when you say okay, now we have something which looks like what it should be, in other words. And you can go ahead and do the same thing for this door here. And all of this, we are doing it in 3D documents. So I don't know how many of you have used 3D documents, but I find them really cool in terms of creating floor plans, which look really interesting and are much more communicative of the idea. Someone can feel themselves navigating through such a space. So this one more, we can, I'm holding down Ctrl+Shift+M to mirror in order to be able to bring this here. I may have to mirror again here in order to bring this up to somewhere here. So I think this is really cool. But of course, this workflow, once you do these 2D elements, they are not going to update when you change something in the model. So you will have to come in and reposition them well. So we have something which is cool now. And if you wanted to take this a little further as well, these doors, you could open them up as well, because this is a sliding door. If I go to the setting of itself, I can actually also open it up. Under settings, you should be able to see something really cool. So I'm going to go to opening like I did before, which is somewhere. Come on, where are you? It's supposed to be door settings and opening. Now we need to find where the opening type and angle is. Yes, here, opening type and length. Of course, since this is a sliding window, a sliding door, it has length, not the angle. So under 3D opening, we need to increase the length. And I don't know, whatever you decide to put in, I'm going to put in something like 0.5 meter or like, I don't know, 400. Let's put in 0.5 meter so you can see it clearly. And we should have one of these shifting. Yes, there you are. So you can already see how this door is opening. Maybe 0.5 meter is a little too small. We can make it like 1 meter. Just that you clearly see how that is opening up. And I think that's really cool. That's pretty cool. So that's how you create this beautiful, beautiful thing. And yeah, now you can go ahead and name this, because unfortunately we cannot bring the zones in the floor plan. We had the zones in here, and they are the ones that put in the naming, but unfortunately in here you have to come in and put in seating and use just the wording. I say here like 3, and then I'll be able to add in like a pen or something. I like the look of, and because we have a graphic override on top of it, it's not allowing us to change it. So if we wanted to change that text, we might as well have to go to the graphic override to change it. And as well, if you wanted to have this sketchy look, because if you look at this drawing, I have like a sketchy look. It's also a graphic override. So when you go to documents and we say graphic override, we should be able to do those two things. One is to add a rule, yeah, in graphic override, you can add rules. So we can create a new rule and say our text should be red. Yeah, text red. And we also need to add another rule. And of course, we need to bring it to the top, because if you leave it down, it's not going to be shown. These things will overshadow it. We put it on top. And then the other thing is to create a new rule also for the wall, for the line, the sketchy line. Let me just call it sketchy line. So once we have those two, we want to edit them to actually put the rules there. So I have the text red selected, and I will say edit rule, and make sure that this is selecting all text. So under here, I should select all text and override the text pen with red. So it will make them red. Simple as that. Say okay. And then for the sketchy, I just edit the rule. I make sure that all types, in my case, because I want all types, you can exclude some types depending on what you want. You can make some sketchy and some leave them straight. But in this case, I want everything sketchy, and just have the line type changed to the sketchy line. And that would just do about it. So we have edited what we already had, which was the element-based thing, by adding a rule on the text and a rule on the sketchy line. And when we say, okay, you should see those two change. Yes, you can see that right now we have the seating, which is in red. And then we have also these lines, which are sketchy. So that's how you actually do this. Let me know down in the comments whether this has been useful, whether you have picked a thing or two, because I find this really, really interesting, especially doing with floor plans, because it kind of gives it a conceptual feel, where you're still, idealizing some of these things. And I think this can be helpful for students in your presentations. You need to, your ideas are still forming, so you don't want them to look too firm. So I think giving it a sketchy feel also helps in the process of design. So this is how you actually do it. It's pretty simple. It's by adding a graphic override. So graphic override is document graphic overrides, and you can easily change the settings of graphic override. So right now, Archicad has some of the presets, and the one we created here is what is happening in here, which we have just done. So if you want to understand from scratch, be sure to check out my video, which I have done before. But I hope this was helpful, and thanks Robert Ruger for having joined us, a Kenyan from Iraq, if I do remember. And I'm so glad that we were here. And until next time, yes, catch you then.